Hello students, this is your English lesson. Today we are going to read Unit 9, A Voice in the Dark from Oxford Modern English, Book 7. Let's get started. First of all, words to know from page number 103. Bite, wait, car in the US, railway carriage. Deliberately, slowly and thoughtfully, indifferent, not bothered, not thinking something is either good or bad, insignificant, unimportant, irresolute, irresolute, undecided, hesitating, maimed, crippled. Jack has only 3 fingers on one hand. My companion, the narrator, W. H. Davies, is traveling with a friend called Three Fingered Jack. They are trying to get on trains without paying for tickets. Relinquished, relinquished, let go, released, sensation, a stirring of the emotions and interest of many people. To beat, to take a ride on. Now come to the reading. The snow was still deep and the mornings and evenings cold when, a week after this, we reached Ottawa. This slow travelling was not at all to my liking, and I often persuaded to make someone to do something. My companion to make more haste towards Winnipeg. This he agreed to do, so the next morning we jumped a freight train. Freight train is used to transport cargo. Determined to hold it for the whole day. Unfortunately, it was simply a local train and being very slow, having a stop on the way at every insignificant little station, we left it at a town called Renfrew, intending that night to beat a fast overland passenger train, which would convey us 400 or 500 miles before daybreak. With this object, we sat in the station's waiting room until evening, and then, some 20 minutes before the train became due, we slipped out unobserved and took possession of an empty car, stationary some distance away, from which place we could see the train coming and yet be unseen from the station's platform. This train would soon arrive, for passengers were already pacing the platform. The luggage was placed in readiness, and a number of curious people, having nothing else to do, had assembled here to see the coming and going of the train. At last we heard its whistle, and looking out, we saw the headlight in the distance, drawing nearer and nearer. It steamed into the station without making much noise, for the rails were slippery, there still being much ice and snow on the track. Come, I said to Jack, there is no time to lose, and we quickly jumped out of the empty car. This fast passenger train carried a blind baggage car, which means that the end nearest to the engine was blind in having no door. Our object was to suddenly appear from a hiding place, darkness being favorable, and leap on the step of this car and from that place to the platform. This being done when the train was in motion, knowing that the conductor, who was always on the watch for such doings, rarely stopped the train to put men off even when sure of their presence. If he saw us before the train started, he would certainly take means to prevent us from riding. When we had once taken possession of this car, no man could approach us until we reached the next stopping place, which would probably be 50 miles or much more. At that place, we would dismount, conceal ourselves, and when it was again in motion, make another leap for our former place. Of course, the engineer and fireman could reach us, but these men were always indifferent and never interfered, their business being ahead instead of being the engine. The train whistled almost before we were ready and pulled slowly out of the station. I allowed my companion the advantage of being the first to jump, owing to his maimed maimed, injured, or wounded. The train was now going faster and faster, and we were forced to keep pace with it, making a leap. He caught the handlebar and sprang lightly on the step, after which my hand quickly took possession of this bar, and I ran with the train, prepared to follow his example. To my surprise, instead of at once taking his place on the platform, my companion stood thoughtlessly, irresolute on the step, irresolute, feeling uncertain, leaving me no room to make the attempt. But I still held to the bar, though the train was now going so fast that I found great difficulty in keeping step with it. I shouted to him to clear the step. This he proceeded to do very deliberately. I thought, taking a firmer grip on the bar. I jumped, but it was too late, for the train was now going at a rapid rate. My foot came short of the step, and I fell, and still clinging to the handlebar, clinging fitting, was dragged several yards before I relinquished my hold, relinquished to give up. And there I lay for several minutes, feeling a little shaken, whilst the train passed swiftly on into the darkness. Even then, I did not know what had happened, for I attempted to stand but found that something had happened to prevent me from doing this. Sitting down in an upright position, I then began to examine myself and now found that the right foot was severed from the ankle. This discovery did not shock me so much as the thoughts which quickly followed, for as I could feel no pain, I did not know but what my body was in several parts, and I was not satisfied until I had examined every portion of it. Seeing a man crossing the track, I shouted to him for assistance. Assistance here, help. He looked in one direction and another, not seeing me in the darkness, and was going his way when I shouted again. This time he looked full my way, but instead of coming nearer, he made one bound in the air, nearly fell, scrambled to his feet. Scrambled here, make one's way quickly, and was off like the shot from a gun. This man was sought after for several weeks, sought after, find out someone, by people curious to know who he was, but was never found, and no man came forward to say, I am here, I am he. Having failed to find this man, people at last began to think I was under a ghostly impression. Probably that was the other man's impression, for whoever saw pity make the same speed as fear. Another man after this approached, who was a workman on the line, and at the sound of my voice he seemed to understand at once what had occurred. Coming forward quickly, he looked me over, went away, and in a minute or two returned with the assistance of several others to convey me to the station. A number of people were still there, so that when I was placed in the waiting room to bide the arrival of a doctor, I could see no other way of keeping a calm face before such a number of eyes than by keeping out my pipe and smoking, an action which, I am told, caused much sensation in the local press. Now come to the exercises. A. Comprehension. Read the following questions. A. What time of year was it when this incident took place? How do you know? Answer. Winter. The end of this season. The snow is still deep, and the mornings and evenings cold, and there is still much ice and snow on the track. B. What kind of train was it? Diesel, electric, or steam? How do you know? Answer. It was a steam train. It steamed into the station. Also, it has a whistle, a fireman, and engineer. Put together, these things indicate that it was a steam train. C. What in this story is described as being insignificant? What does this mean? Answer. The small stations the slow train stopped at are described as being insignificant. This means unimportant. D. How did the author and his companion know that the train was shortly going to arrive at the station? Answer. The author and his companion knew that the train was shortly going to arrive at the station because passengers were already pacing the platform, the luggage was placed in readiness, and a number of curious people having nothing else to do had assembled here to see the coming and going of the train. E. Why did Davies allow his companion to jump on the train first? Answer. Davies allowed his companion to jump on the train first because he had a maimed hand. F. What is meant by a blind baggage car? Answer. A blind baggage car means that the end nearest to the engine on that car or carriage had no door or it, so if the man could climb on it, no one would be able to see them or get to them. G. Does Davis blame the man for the incident? How do we know? Answer. Davis says that the man stood thoughtlessly irresolute on the step, leaving no room for him, which suggests the action was not intention, but then adds that he moved very deliberately, which suggests that he believes the man was being slow intentionally. This question is more difficult. Discuss it first. H. Why do you think the man jumping on the train before the author hesitated? How is his hesitation described by the author? What might have happened if the man had not hesitated? Answer. His hesitation is described as thoughtlessly irresolute. Perhaps he was unsure, undecided. If the man had not hesitated, Davis would have boarded the train and left Renfrew. He would not have lost his foot and may never have written this story. 2. Explain what is meant by the groups of words italicized in the following sentences. A. We slipped out unobserved and took possession of an empty car. Slipped out, to sneak out of a place unnoticed. And took possession of, took ownership of, temporary in this case. B. With this object, we sat in the station's waiting room till evening. With this object, with this as our goal. C. Come, I said, there is no time to lose. Here, no time to lose. need to hurry as fast as possible. D. The train pulled slowly out of the station. Pulled slowly out, departed. E. I shouted to him to clear the step. To clear the step. Move aside. F. My foot came short of the step. Came short of. Did not reach. G. Coming forward quickly, the man looked me over. Looked me over. Examine quickly or inspect. B. Working with words. 1. Use the following words and phrases in sentences of your own. A. Indifferent. Sentence. He appeared indifferent to her family sufferings. B. To my liking. Sentence. The weather was not dry enough to my liking, so I decided not to go outside. C. Unfortunately. Sentence. Unfortunately, the project was unsuccessful. D. Unobserved. Sentence. She left the room unobserved. E. Taken possession of. Sentence. You cannot legally take possession or possession of property until the contract is signed. F. Very deliberately. Sentence. She dropped the bag deliberately. G. Portion. Sentence. She only eats a small portion of food. Age. Interfered. Interfered sentence is his illness interfered with his workplace responsibilities. I. Instead of coming nearer. Sentence. When I got injury, instead of coming nearer and helping me, my friends ignored me. J. Darkness being favorable. Sentence. No one could recognize the thief due to the cover of darkness being favorable. Spelling. To add the suffixes ed and meant to the following. Measure. Here we can say measured, measurement. Encourage, encouraged, encouragement. Engage, engaged, engagement. Settle, settled, settlement. Refine, refined, refinement. Require, required, requirement. Learning about language. 1. Find the adverb phrases in the following. A. The train whistled and pulled out at a slow speed. Here, at a slow speed is a phrase. Whistled how? B. Davies was sitting down in an upright position. In an upright position. Sitting how? C. People at last began to think I was wrong. At last is a phrase when he is thinking. D. The news caused much sensation in the local press. In the local press. Where? Caused where? E. The luggage was placed in readiness. In readiness. Placed how? In readiness. F. The author faced his difficulty with great courage. With great courage. Faced how? With great courage. 2. Replace the italicized phrases with adverbs of similar meaning. A. He said, do the work at once. He said, do the work immediately or now. B. The weak bridge collapsed in the end. The weak bridge collapsed eventually. C. The soldiers fought with great courage. The soldiers fought with, we can say the soldiers fought courageously. 2. Replace the italicized phrases with adverbs of similar meaning. A. He said do the work at once. He said do the work immediately or now. B. The weak bridge collapsed in the end. The weak bridge collapsed eventually. C. The soldiers fought with great courage. The soldiers fought courageously. D. The woman thanked the policeman with all her heart. The woman thanked the policeman wholeheartedly. E. Amir looked for his ring in all places. Amir looked for his ring everywhere. F. The patient waited in his room with patience. The patient waited in his room patiently. Thanks for listening. For new videos, don't forget to subscribe my channel. And if you like my videos, please share and like.